the SAP Fiori webinar series, episode 2. So over the next couple of days, today's session that we're going to be covering, episode 2, is Business Application Studio, Fiori Tools, and Fiori Elements. For those of you who were on the call yesterday, Tom Rice gave a great synopsis of the UX strategy and roadmap. And today we're going to build on what Tom has talked about yesterday with several of our sessions. But before we start, I just want to let you guys know that this is all part of the, you guys can become part of the SAP BTP Customer Value Network if you want to know more about what that is. This is really a one-stop shop of topic experts, peers, and technical contents where we all get connected, find out about upcoming events, and get the latest information on SAP strategy and innovation. So if you're interested, you can just simply register to one of our events, upcoming events. We have 2 of them on the horizon. October 6th, we have SAP BTP Customer Value, Create an Open and Agile Enterprise with Unified Data and Real-Time Analytics. This is our 4th and final installment with our partner Deloitte. We'll be holding this in both of the main time zones, so Asia Pacific, Japan time zone. You can see the time zones marked there, as well as the European and the Americas time zone in Eastern. The North America session is obviously will be only in the North American time zone, but this is a 3-day webinar series focused on RISE, data to value, and analytics. So if you're interested there, that'll be a much later time zone for you, but we're looking at hopefully bringing this to APJ in the coming months. We've also started our SAP Garage series several months ago. We're already on episode 6. The upcoming episode will be on October the 6th, again in both main time zones. This one will be covering optimized healthcare enterprise capacity with planning with SAP Analytics Cloud. So this is our Garage series is really a studio for presenting and connecting our business value with SAP BTP. This is where you guys sort of take a look under the hood, so to speak, getting some hands-on enablement and expert guidance. Each episode is focused on one SAP Discovery Center mission, and we dive into it with the main topic experts. So if you're interested in joining the monthly call for that, the link is there, and I'll be sending this presentation to Mukesh for him to upload it to the main site. Apart from that, we also host several monthly practitioners. Some of you may be already registered. My colleague Peter Spielvogel and Conrad Bernal host the SAP Screen Personas Practitioners Forum. Myself and Jocelyn Dart and Simon Kemp host the SAP Fiori APJ UX Practitioners Forum. It's basically anything and everything that you'd like to know about UX. And then we also host myself with Risha Sharma and Rajesh Raghupati. We host the SAP BTP Practitioners Forum for both main time zones. So if you're interested in joining any one of these, the links are here. Our agenda today really is we're going to start with my colleague Raz Korn, Senior Product Manager at SAP. He's going to cover the SAP Business Application Studio, an introduction. And then he's going to cover the SAP Business Application Studio product tour for a few minutes. Following Raz's session, my colleague Ian Quigley, product owner for SAP Fiori Tools Application Generator, will cover accelerating SAP Fiori app development and introduction to SAP Fiori Elements and SAP Fiori Tools. And then following his session, my colleague Arun Bharati Kumarasamy will be covering building an SAP Fiori Elements app. So he'll show some hands-on examples around Fiori Elements. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mukesh for a couple of words.
Thanks, Taurus. I think Atul Govil is here on the call as well. He's one of the INDUS board members. Maybe Atul, if you can share a couple of words.
No, thanks, Mukesh, and we all eagerly look forward to learn through these 6 sessions. And yesterday we covered the overview, and I think today onwards we'll deep dive in the technical aspects of Fury deployment, implementation, and of course support. And not just look how to deploy standard Fury apps, which are available maybe in thousands now in the recent versions of S4HANA, but just also around customizing Fury apps. I think it's a very holistic program which has been curated, keeping in mind of, the need of the evolved needs of driving mobility across SAP usage. And it's very important that we, together with other Indus board members, we actually create and leverage this technology to the fullest. And to do that, of course, capability building within respective enterprises is extremely important. And that's the whole premise of this program. Look forward for great learnings, and I think over to you, Mukesh.
Thanks, Atul, for your words. Pretty sure a lot of you have already said that you attended the last session we held yesterday. I saw on the chat there were a few questions around the recording links and the link to the slides. You would have got a reminder email about 10 minutes before. The recording link for last session, as well as the slides, is also available in the same email. And every day you will get a reminder email about 10 minutes before, and you will have the link to those recordings as we go along. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Raz. Raz, over to you. You can take it away.
Thanks, Mukesh. I'll share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
So, okay, my name is Raz Koren, and I'm product manager for SAP Business Application Studio and SAP Web IDE. I'd like to take the following 20 minutes or so to provide you an introduction to SAP Business Application Studio. And following me, there will be Ian and Arun, who will use the Business Application Studio and will build on top of the basics that I'm going to present, as well as I think tomorrow you will have a session with Oliver Graf on SAP UI5 Freestyle application development, which will show you how to use the Business Application Studio in additional UX development scenarios. So this is the standard disclaimer, legal disclaimer. And this is what we're going to do. Short introduction, very quick demo, high-level comparison with the Web IDE, hints on getting started, and Q&A will probably have shared for all the sessions today at the end of the sessions. Since I don't have a lot of time, I would ask you to put your questions into the chat, and I'll review them following the session and along the sessions of my colleagues. And please keep the Q&A until after the session. So what is SAP Business Application Studio? It's pretty much the next generation of SAP Web IDE, or if you'd like to call it, it's the SAP Web IDE evolution. It's generally available on SAP's multi-cloud environment, powered by AWS, Azure, and AliCloud for China, for the Chinese customers. And it's also available on SAP BTP trial environment for test and evaluation. It's a modern development environment tailored for efficient development of business applications for the intelligent enterprise. So we're talking about applications such as SAP Fiori, SAP S4HANA extensions that leverage the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model, SAP HANA native application development, modeling workflow, mobile applications, and more. So it's a lot more than just SAP Fiori or SAP UI5 development. And I want to take this opportunity to mention one of the latest innovation we just introduced. which is that as part of SAP's new offering for low-code, no-code development on SAP Business Technology Platform, we recently released SAP Business Application Studio for low-code application development. It is intended for a full-stack application development and is available to customers and partners with SAP BTP productive accounts. So what is the value proposition of the Business Application Studio? So something that you'll see, that you'll hear about here in my session, as well as in other sessions, is that it provides a turnkey solution based on what we call dev spaces. So dev space is a key term in the Business Application Studio. And it's like an isolated virtual machine in the cloud that can be instantly spinned up. And within this dev space, the developers develop, test, build, and run the solution. That's, of course, before the deployment. Eventually, the developer deploys the application either to test, QA, or productive account. Each dev space contains tailored tools and pre-installed runtimes.
Just give me a 1 minute, Aditya. Just
for a target scenarios such as SAP Fiori or mobile development. This simplifies and saves time setting up the development environment, as there's no need to install anything, upgrade, letting developers to focus on their business domain anytime, anywhere. Integration with additional services and solutions on-premise or in the cloud, or leveraging SAP technologies is a breeze. Examples can be SAP API Business Hub and SAP solutions for data consumption and application deployment, SAP technologies such as SAP UI5, SAP Cloud Application Programming Model, and commonly used technologies such as Java, Node.js, and OData. And of course, the Business Application Studio comes with many high productivity tools that accelerate application development, such as templates, wizards, optimized code and graphical editors, deployment tools, and much more. This is like the key use cases. As I mentioned, building web applications, Fiori and UI5 is only one of the key use cases of Business Application Studio. You can see here that there are additional use cases where Business Application Studio can be used to increase time to market, to expedite time to market for various scenarios, for various development scenarios. So I would like to show you the big picture of the product. I'd like to start with the developer at the top part of the image. All the developer needs is a machine running a browser and connected to the internet, as the Business Application Studio is browser-based access. In the center of the diagram, you can see the Business Application Studio running on SAP BTP. And within the Business Application Studio, the developer can have multiple dev spaces. Each dev space is dedicated to a specific development scenario. And if we take as an example the dev space of type SAP Fiori that is intended for SAP Fiori and SAP UI5 application development, you can see that dev space of this type contains a file system where the code is stored. And here it's very important for me to mention that we strongly recommend using Git source control as part of your development process. It contains a development environment. Development environment is basically the IDE, which is based on an open source called Thea, which embraces a Microsoft VS Code experience. The dev space includes, through the extensions that are part of an SAP, of a dev space of type SAP Fiori, This dev space includes all tools needed for the development of SAP Fiori and SAP UI5 applications, such as SAP UI5 libraries, layout editor, language server, protocol for code completion, hints, and many more extensions that are built in as part of the creation of a dev space. And there is the option for the developer to customize the dev space by enabling additional extensions from vendor neutral marketplace called OpenVSX, or by including additional extensions that are available from SAP. And from data source perspective, this application studio can consume data from SAP BTP, from on-premise systems, as well as from data sources that are on the internet. Once the development is completed, the application can be deployed to SAP BTP, to various environments, such as the Cloud Foundry environment or the ABAP environment. It can be deployed to SAP S/4HANA Cloud. Native HANA applications can be deployed to SAP HANA Cloud. And of course, we support the deployment to on-premise ABAP, be it S4 or ECC. And all of these deployment types are available directly from the BIS Application Studio. Okay, so this is an example of different dev space types and how each dev space type includes different set of tools according to the development scenario, and I'll cover it shortly in the demo. So I'll just skip it. So moving to the demo part. Okay, accessing the SAP BIS Application Studio. So you can access it from SAP. So I'm currently showing how to access the trial environment. So we go to Products, Business Technology Platform. Try SAP BTP. Log into your account. Sign in, and I'm inside my SAP BTP trial cockpit. Okay, so I can access access the BIS Application Studio from the subscriptions that I have in my trial environment. And basically, it's the same for productive accounts. So you log into your account, to your global account, and then you go to the instances of subscription. You have a subscription. The administrator assigned you the SAP BIS applications to the subscription, and you can click the Go to Application. Or if you're using the trial environment, from the trial homepage, the landing page, you have a direct access link to the BIS Application Studio. The first time that you access the BIS Application Studio, you will see a landing page that provides you a lot of information about the BIS Application Studio, enables you to create dev space. Yes.
Raz, I think there is a request that the screen is too small. So if you can zoom a little bit so that people can actually view the Zoom, the screen as well. A little bit more. Yeah, I think this should be good.
Okay, so we can make the basic operation directly from the landing page. To create the dev space, you can actually create dev space of different types directly from the landing page. For example, SAP Fiori dev space creation directly here. And you have links to additional resources. Access directly the dev space manager, which we'll see in a moment. Watch a demo, tutorial, blogs, the community page, documentation, everything is available from the landing page. Let's go to the dev space manager. So in the dev space manager, it allows me basically to manage my dev spaces. So I can create a new dev space from various types. I can delete a dev space. I can start and stop a dev space. I can change its definitions. That means include additional extensions that SAP delivers, and I can download the content of the dev space. By creating a dev space, you can see here that I have various dev space types, and according to the dev space type that I select, different predefined extensions are added to the new dev space that I create, and I have different set of additional extensions that I can optionally include in the dev space. So you can see here for SAP Fiori dev space type, the various extensions that are available. But if I move to full stack cloud application, you can see that the set of extensions change because it's a different development flow. Once I have created a dev space, and next time that I will launch the SAP Business Application Studio, I won't reach the landing page, which you saw earlier, but I'll reach immediately the Dev Space Manager page. I have already started demo Fiori dev space. I created it and started it to save some time. And clicking the link, I will access my development environment, go through privacy notes. And now we can see the Business Application Studio loading. And this is how the Business Application Studio looks like. In the center, you have a place for the various editors, in which can be also customized according to the specific developer needs. On the top, of course, you have a standard menu bar. On the left-hand side, you have various panes that assist you during development. For example, the Explorer, which we'll see in a moment, search, Git capabilities, debugger while test running the application, extensions, so I can include additional extension and improve my development environment, and additional various additional panes that support my development and flow. I can also rearrange the panes according to my specific needs. At the bottom, we have the status bar, which includes a lot of information in a very small, with very small real estate. Like I can see which CF environment I'm targeting. I can see if I have any problems. If I'm connected to Git, I'll have here Git indications. The color of the status bar also delivers information about where I stand within my development flow. And of course, I have notifications. On the right-hand side, I have the option to open outline of various for the various files that I'm working with. Let me show just a few examples for personalization. So we have here a few shortcuts to documentation, what's new, getting started. There are keyboard shortcuts that are already defined and available, but can also be adjusted and personalized. You can see here that I can edit this specific shortcut and change it according to my needs. I can change the theme to match what I like to, the theme that I like. These are various light themes. There are also dark themes that can be applied. I contrast the themes if needed. So we have light, dark, high contrast, and I can also, through the extension capabilities, I can import additional themes and use them as well. I'll change it back to light. And let me open a workspace. So how do I start my development? I can either clone a repository, drag and drop a project. I can use a template to create project. I can also migrate a project from the SAP Web IDE to the Business Application Studio, and so on. And so once I start with the project, I'm working on a project within a workspace. It's not a dev space, it's working on a project within a workspace. This is a different terminology, which is also very important. And so now the Business Application Studio is loading with a specific project in the workspace. And a workspace can be a single project workspace, and I can also include multiple projects within the same workspace. And I can save this workspace definition, and I can also load all the projects at once. So within my project, some additional customization that I would like to show and additional capabilities. Let's see in the controller, for example, I'm opening the controller. So you can see that there's the highlighting, and you can see here minimap of the open file with cursor indication and the line indication where exactly I'm standing and so on. And I can open the outline. When I see the outline, I can see the different methods that are available within the JavaScript file. Another example, I can add, for example, a variable, and then in the outline, I'll see also the variable. And of course, we have code completion and hints and so on. I'm not going to go into each of these capabilities, but you should be aware that all these nice tools that developers need for their development work, all of them are already available within the Business Application Studio. So I'll stop here the demo due to time constraints, and I'll go back to the to my presentation just to sum up this part of the session. So a short comparison with the Web IDE, things that you should be aware of. First of all, of course, is that the Business Application Studio is available in the SAP BTP multi-cloud environment, the Cloud Foundry environment, while the Web IDE is available on the Neo environment. Deployment target, there is some difference between the two tools. The Web IDE supports the Neo environment, but it does not support the ABAP environment. And going forward, Business Application Studio is the tool that will support additional environments if needed. The Business Application Studio is tailored for specific development scenarios. It embraces the VS Code experience and provides a desktop-like experience in the cloud. It also provides run and debug capabilities, terminal access, and superior code editors. So these are like the highlights of the differences between the Business Application Studio and SAP Web IDE. How do you get started with the Business Application Studio? So first of all, it's available for test and evaluation on the trial environment. There are many tutorials available according to different development scenarios that you can go through and learn both about the Business Application Studio and the specific development scenario. It is available for licensing both in consumption and subscription models. And it is available for partners as well. If you want to learn more about the SAP Business Application Studio, this is like a single link that you should be aware of. In this link, you'll be able to find a lot of information on the Business Application Studio. This is the community topic page. And you can find here the latest information that was released and expert content according to the different development scenarios. So first of all, you have information that is available on the Business Application Studio itself. And then you have a section for Fiori UI5 and HTML5, section on mobile development, section on S4HANA extension, HANA development, workflow management, and so on. We put here a lot of stuff, blogs, key blogs, basically videos, tutorials that are relevant for the specific use case, and so on. So I'll go over the chat and look for the questions that you haven't answered them. And one additional link that you should be familiar with is our generic email box. So if you have any questions on this application studio, not technical questions of how you do this and that, but questions that are related to what you can do with the business application studio or a licensing question, this is the place for you to reach out to us. For technical questions, you should turn to the SAP community. And you have here on the right-hand side, on the related question, you can immediately click this link and ask any question that you have that is related to how you can do something in the business application studio.
Hello, this is Shubham from EPL. Just want to know about, like, you guys said the comparison between Web IDE and BAS. So in future, Web IDE, full stack Web IDE will get obsolete, or it will be there? Hello?
Okay, I'll wrap up and answer your question while wrapping up. So one point that I'd like to mention as part of the wrap up is that we frequently introduce new innovation to business application studios. So what you saw in the demo might look a bit different even today or tomorrow because we continually introduce new capabilities. But of course, the basics are kept the same. The SAP Web IDE is available and is supported. Eventually, like any product, it will reach its end of life. It is currently, by the way, on end of sales. So new customers cannot purchase the SAP Web IDE, but existing customers can use SAP Web IDE, can get additional licenses. Of course, they get support as part of their contract. So it's alive and kicking. Saying that, our recommendation, and especially for SAP Fiori and SAP UI5 development, is to try out the Business Application Studio and license the Business Application Studio, as this is the product where SAP puts the efforts, and all the new innovations will happen with the Business Application Studio and not with SAP Web IDE.
Thank you. Adding to your point, what are the steps, like what is the procedure to purchase the full stack business studio application studio? Or we have to purchase? Yeah, we have like any, like we have to do it into trial base only. We have to go purchase the full stack application for base.
So Business Application Studio can be purchased either through the SAP store in subscription mode. You can also reach out to the AE, to the account executives that supports your organization, and purchase it through the AE. It can also, if you have a CPEA enabled account, so you can use the consumption-based model to consume the Business Application Studio. So there are many ways that you can get a license to Business Application Studio. It's basically based on your organization specific needs and the way that it works. So I'll stop here, and I would like to, as we need to progress with the additional sessions. So back to you, Mukesh.
Raz, you'll be here till the end of the session, right, for the Q&A?
Yes, I'll stay cool. Throughout the session. I'll be in the Q&A session, and I'll also look into the chat to see if there are any questions that are specific to this application studio.
And if you can answer those on the chat, that will be really great.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you. So Ian, can I ask you to share your screen and take it away? Ian?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me and see me? Great.
Yeah, we can hear you. Can't see you though.
Sorry, you can see my screen?
Yes, can see your screen.
Okay, great. So hello everyone, my name is Ian Quigley, and I am one of the product owners for the SAP Fiori tool suite, which is, I guess, the topic of today's conversation along with SAP Fiori Elements. So in this session, I'll give you a comprehensive overview, hopefully of two solutions that might change the way you think about building your SAP Fiori apps for your organization. SAP Fiori Elements and SAP Fiori tools are what SAP uses to build apps for SAP S/4HANA. This approach allows us to build apps that perform well, that look consistent with each other, and are efficient to develop. Hopefully, after this presentation, you could benefit from using the same approach. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so this session will be structured as follows. We'll start with a brief introduction of our design system for all SAP products, which is SAP Fiori. We'll introduce SAP Fiori Elements and how SAP Fiori tools can support you in developing SAP Fiori Elements apps. And finally, my colleague Arun will present a demo on how you can use the SAP Fiori tools to build your SAP Fiori applications. Sorry, my mouse is just after freezing here. Just give me one sec. Sorry guys, my mouse is after freezing. Just give me one sec to see if it comes back. Okay, it's back, Okay, before we get properly started, let me talk about the three most important things I'd like you to take away from this presentation. First, SAP Fiori Elements and SAP Fiori tools greatly accelerate and simplify your app development. Second, SAP Fiori Elements enforces UX consistency. Every app you build using this framework will look and behave the same. Users will require much less training as all the controls are in the same place, regardless of whether they are purchasing materials, looking up a catalog entry, or requesting time off. And finally, we have found that around 80% of the apps we create at SAP can use the SAP Fiori Elements format. So we encourage you to look at these solutions as you plan your UX transformation and how to build more SAP Fiori apps to meet your organization needs. Okay, first things first, let's talk about SAP Fiori. SAP Fiori is the official user experience of SAP, and we are constantly working with customers to ensure that we are providing the most up-to-date, intuitive user experience. It's also our design system for all SAP products, and I'll explain more about what this means shortly. A good user experience, it's not just pretty screens. An intuitive UX delivers benefits you can quantify. For example, a good user experience makes users more productive because they are able to move through business processes faster. An intuitive UX decreases training time and costs. A simple, consistent user experience minimizes the risk of user errors, leading to an increased data quality and less rework. Sorry, guys, I think there's somebody who isn't on mute who's typing. Would you mind muting yourself? Thank you. Okay, looking beyond hard numbers, it's also likely you'll see happier users who are more likely to embrace and advocate for these new applications. You may also see reduced friction between IT and end users, as screens should be easier to navigate. SAP Fiori is the design language that should bring you this good user experience. So now that we've briefly mentioned SAP Fiori, let's get straight to the topic of SAP Fiori elements and SAP Fiori tools, okay? So let's give you a little bit of history of SAP Fiori. In 2013, we started to look at upgrading some of our apps in SAP to deliver support for the new SAP Fiori design language. At the time, the number of apps were in the tens. Then 3 years later, we brought out Fiori 2 and we updated hundreds of apps to support Fiori 2. And for Fiori 3, it was thousands of apps. And it was obvious that we couldn't manually continue to upgrade these applications from version to version and needed a framework to support updating the version to the next version seamlessly. And that framework is called SAP Fiori Elements. Okay. So when it comes to embracing the SAP Fiori user experience, there are a number of ways to get there, depending on if you're taking advantage of existing SAP processes or you're creating a net new application. If you're looking to SAP developed apps, you have a few different options. If there's already an existing app in the reference library that meets your needs, you can just use that. If an app exists, but you need to make a few changes to suit your needs, you can take advantage of SAP UI5 flexibility and adapt it. If the functionality you need exists as a classic SAP GUI transaction, you can also use SAP Screen Personas to update the look and feel, as well as simplify the end process for your end users. Okay, so if your desired functionality does not exist as an SAP Fiori application or transaction, you can use SAP Fiori Elements to create an app based on a number of SAP provided templates. Not only does this save you front-end development time, it also ensures that your apps are compliant with SAP Fiori going forward. Okay. SAP Fiori Elements, it's built using SAP UI5 technology, which I think you're going to hear a lot more about in the next session with Oliver. It's a modern web framework that makes it easy to create cross-platform SAP Fiori apps. If you use SAP UI5 as the foundation of your web app, it has several key advantages. First, it gives you the user experience, the SAP Fiori user experience today. And as I mentioned, it crucially gives you forward compatibility as the design system evolves. So when we introduce new versions of SAP Fiori, they should integrate seamlessly into your existing applications. It includes built-in support for SAP's enterprise-grade product standards, for security, accessibility, and internationalization. SAP UI5, it's a web-based technology, so therefore it should run on all platforms, browsers, and devices. So you can have write once and have both desktop and mobile app support. And it also gives you the ability to extend SAP standard applications and customize UIs without writing any code using the UI5 flexibility I mentioned. Okay. Well, what exactly is SAP Fiori Elements? In a nutshell, it's a UI development library built on top of SAP UI5, which I just mentioned. And the main idea behind SAP Fiori Elements is that the content of the screen is generated at runtime, and it's based on metadata coming from the backend. So this means that there's very little front-end code required, and sometimes no front-end code at all. Another benefit is that these apps are responsive, which means they'll adapt to the screen size automatically. Of course, you may want to provide your own flexibility to change the behaviors or introduce additional controls. There are several means of adapting and enhancing your app. You can use SAP UI5 flexibility settings, and you can also introduce custom code in the form of extensions. And such app extensions can be built using framework extension points, which are provided by the SAP Elements framework. Okay, the way that SAP Fiori Elements allows you to scale your development is by delivering a template and metadata-based approach to app creation. So we provide a number of templates that reduce the amount of front-end development work required to build your application, and it allows you to focus on the business logic and the back-end services while leveraging our proven UI concepts. And since the templates are developed and maintained by SAP, you'll get the same user experience consistency that we ship with our standard Fiori apps. It also means that your development investment is protected going forward. And as I've mentioned already, we'll handle the UI updates, so your apps always comply to the latest SAP Fiori design standards. And furthermore, apps that are built using SAP Fiori Elements are automatically enterprise-grade apps. Our framework ensures high-quality, stable, and optimized UI code. It also provides many features out of the box that are expected in the enterprise space, but are typically fairly expensive to implement. For example, accessibility, variant management, or edit mode. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about developer productivity and how it is boosted by providing templates, which we call page types. Most scenarios in the enterprise involve a variation of providing an overview of business relevant data, various types of lists of this data, and then managing the data. The SAP Fiori Elements page types were developed to cover the majority of these user cases that we see in the ERP context. So we have 5 distinct page types that SAP Fiori Elements provides. First, we have overview pages. These are used to provide an overview on the data for a certain business area or role, and usually this overview is the jumping off point for a business process. It provides you with the business critical information, KPIs, quick links, contacts, and so on. You can then interact with these objects to navigate to other page types for more information. Okay, list report pages allow you to work with a large set of items in a list format. You can filter and sort on the results, and you can drill down to an object page for more information. You also have access to 2 variations on the list report depending on your needs. For example, we have an analytical list page, which allows you to work with a large set of data, and it adds analytical capabilities and charts to visualize your data a little bit better. And finally, we have the work list page, which allows you to process a list of tasks. And last but not least, as I mentioned, object pages, they display detailed information about a single item. Okay, so they're the 5 page types that Fiori Elements currently supports as a framework. Okay, with SAP Fiori Elements, we provide UI logic such as the navigation between the pages or between apps, our searching, sorting, and filtering capabilities in lists, but also more complex functionality like editing, including draft management or variant management. And furthermore, many additional enterprise-ready features, which are typically pretty costly to implement, are provided automatically. And I guess I mentioned these already: accessibility, internationalization, and mobile support. Okay, the first thing that every SAP Fiori Elements app needs is an OData endpoint. So OData is a protocol that sits on top of a standard HTTP request and defines how you can exchange data with the backend. And this means that OData standardizes the way the data is accessed. Instead of learning new APIs to access data specific to each application's web service, OData provides a common way to query and update the data. So it's a standard in the industry. It essentially allows you to define how to filter and extract the data that you want to have. It's metadata, it's machine readable description of the data model that is available to the Fiori Elements framework. Okay, so now that I've mentioned OData and what SAP Fiori Elements provides, let me explain at a high level how it works. So the most important thing to know is that SAP Fiori Elements generates the application you see at runtime by combining 3 fundamental building blocks: OData services, OData annotations, and the SAP Fiori Elements page types. So the data from the backend is exposed as an OData service, and SAP provides many OData services with SAP S/4HANA, or you can write your own. So developers use annotations, which are a form of metadata, to specify the information you want to see on screen in the format you desire. SAP Fiori Elements then takes this information and displays it in one of the standard page types. Thus, our framework takes care about how your content is displayed. So there's no longer a need to code the UI with JavaScript. Instead, you provide the abstract description and the semantics and the behavior of your data using OData annotations. And this means application developers can now focus on the business functionality. So what is displayed, how it behaves, and how it should be consumed. Okay, so now that I've given you an idea of how SAP Fiori Elements works, we want to show you how easy it is to build SAP Fiori Elements based apps using SAP Fiori tools. Okay. So SAP Fiori Tools, it's designed to guide developers through the full life cycle of building SAP Fiori Elements applications using a wizard-style approach. It consists of a set of extensions for SAP Business Application Studio and Visual Studio Code. These extensions work together to provide capabilities to increase the efficiency of developing and maintaining SAP Fiori Elements applications. During development, you'll use different extensions at different parts of the process. The features of the extensions are complementary, and you can seamlessly switch between them based on your needs. You don't have to remember the names of each of the extensions once they're integrated into your IDE. In fact, since SAP Business Application Studio is hosted, there's nothing to download, as the SAP Fiori tools are pre-installed in the Fiori dev space that Raz mentioned previously. Okay, I'll quickly go through each of the extensions and explain what they do, and then I'll hand over to Arun for a demo of the features. Okay, creating an SAP Fiori Elements app starts with the application generator. So the application generator helps you configure and create your application project. It uses a wizard-style approach that lets you select the page type from the list of options. Then you select your OData service that you want to use. And as an alternative, you can use mock data if you prefer to work offline. The application generator wizard inspects the metadata and gives you options to customize your data to match the page type you've chosen. You enter text at various prompts, which the generator uses to generate the app name and directory structure. And the application generator also downloads the libraries you need for the app and retrieves the backend annotations if they exist to use in the generated app. So it generates a Node.js-based application with Fiori Elements support. So once your app is generated, you can then use the other tools. So the application modeler will show you the application page structure, visualize it, and allow you to modify and configure the SAP UI5 flexibility settings. It provides a page map of your app, including the page type and the entity set for the respective pages. You can also use the page map to add additional pages to your app. For example, you can add a new object page to your app to provide additional details about an object. You just select the page type, the data you want to display on the app, and how you want to navigate to this new page. Okay, the service modeler provides a visualization of the OData metadata files and their annotations in your app. It shows you all the projections available in your service, along with the local and backend annotations associated with this projection. It provides details on the annotations and descriptions of what they do. And you can copy backend annotations to a local file and then modify the annotations as needed for your app. So it allows you to do the customizations there. It allows you to change the hierarchy, the annotation hierarchy, or select which annotation files are applied to your app. And you can also drill down and see code snippets for your annotations and edit them. So guided development, probably one of our most common tools. It helps you implement additional functionality into your SAP Fiori Elements application, again with minimal coding. Once you've generated your app, you can add a wide variety of features to the standard SAP Fiori Elements page types. For example, you can add columns to a table, or you can change from a single to multi-select for the rows. You can search for the guides that you want and need using this tool. And when you open Guided Development Extension, you'll see a list of all the ways you can enhance your app. Each guide contains a brief description, associated annotation terms, the specific steps, and sometimes shows you a sample of what your changes will look like. Okay. And then finally, we have the XML annotation language server. So this accelerates how you work with annotations in the code editor. It displays context-sensitive code completion suggestions. As you type a few letters, the list is filtered down to make it faster and easier to find the syntax you need. These micro snippets make it much simpler to add annotations without having to memorize the definitions and syntax of all the available annotations. On the XML annotation language server, it also includes cross-references, so you can handily look up definitions of annotations that are embedded in your code without having to navigate away from what you are doing. It also reviews your code and provides diagnostic messages for troubleshooting with the ability to take you directly to the location of a problem. And in some cases, it even suggests code fixes that you can do directly within your XML file to fix the problem that it has found. Okay. So with that, I've given you a brief overview of what SAP Fiori is, how SAP Fiori elements build on top of the Fiori design language so that we can ensure that your applications are compatible going forward with the next version of our design language. And then I just briefly mentioned each of the SAP Fiori tools that we provide within the Business Application Studio to help you develop Fiori applications. So now I'll hand over to Arun, who is going to give you hopefully a demo of all these tools in action so you can see how it works in practice. Arun, over to you.
Hello, Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a single doubt. My name is Harsha. You are mentioning that we have an approach of freestyle app development and Fiori elements app development approach. Yeah. What is the disadvantage of Fiori elements app approach? What are the limitations of this? Can you please explain? Instead of going for freestyle app approach, in which cases we need to go for Fiori elements approach, and in which cases we need to go for freestyle app approach? Can you please elaborate it on Ian?
Sure, I can. So as I mentioned, there's maybe 80% of the use cases we have within our app development in SAP where we find the floor plans from SAP Fiori elements suitable. If you look through the floor plans and you find they're suitable for your application, we do recommend you use SAP Fiori elements for sure. If you find that you need to deviate significantly from the floor plan and add more and more customizations, then of course it may make sense for you to develop with SAP Fiori Freestyle and use that template as a starting point. However, you will not necessarily get the guaranteed upgrades to different versions of Fiori going forward. So, you know, there are 20% of cases we found in SAP where Fiori elements does not fit the bill, depending on the customer needs. If the existing floor plans are not suitable, or if you find that you would need to deviate significantly and, you know, rather than use the SAP Fiori tools, you would need to develop a lot of adaptation or flexibility changes to your application. In that case, we would recommend you go with Freestyle, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. And if there are any further questions for Ian, please do drop the questions on the chat. Ian, if I can request you to actually look at the questions on the chat and answer them while we have the next speaker presenting. Thank you. And Arun, can I ask you to share your screen and take it away, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So let me start sharing my screen and please confirm if it's visible and you're able to see it clearly.
Yes, we can see your screen now. Thank you.
Okay. Hello everyone. This is Arun. I work as an architect in one of the floor plans, to be specific, list report and object page of the Fiori elements. And for today, for demo, I'll be creating a simple travel application using the list report and object page floor plan and using one of the OData V2 services that we have. So as you can see here, I have a Business Application Studio, which I'm running from the BTP trial account. So let me start. So I'll go to the file and then new project from the template. So here I'll be selecting the Fiori application, in which I can select the Fiori elements floor plan that I want to use. So I've selected list report and object page. So the next step would be to select the data source. So I can select any data source either from the backend, or I can use a local metadata or a local cap project as well. So for here, I'll choose a system, which is part of the BTP trial account. So once the environment is selected, then I'll be selecting the respective data service, which I will be using. So
Arun,
maybe
there is a request in the audience to zoom in.
Okay, let me try to zoom in a bit.
Make it 175 or 150 so that.
Okay, I'll make it 150.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so give me a second. So I was selecting the environment. I want to select one of the services. So I have one of the OData V2 service for this application, which serves the metadata and annotations. The annotations for field elements can come from either from the backend, or it can also be generated in the front end itself. So after the service is selected, then I would like to select the main entity which I want to show in the list. I select travel, and for now I'll not configure any navigation entity. So I'll try to fill out some of the project details here. I'll say is travel app. Okay. Okay, I'll leave the rest of it as it is. So so once I click on finish, as you can see here, the application is available here, and in the background, the dependencies are being installed since it's a node project. So as far as the folder structure is concerned, you can see all the artifacts related to the Fiori elements under the web app and all the other artifacts related to the node project here. So I did use the application generator to generate the project, and the application information space also, which is served by the application modeler, which shows all the available options for this project. So for now, let me see what application I've generated. For that, I'll just click on preview application. So the preview application can shows a few options, whether I can start the app from the local or from the server itself, or I can use a mock data. For now, I'll just use the service itself so that it gets the data from the backend. So as you can see, the resources are served from here. And the application for now, it loads in the FLP shell, and the skeleton is present, but there are no columns, which means I'll check the annotation.xml file where I expect some of the annotation to be present. So as you can see here, the annotation file seems to be empty. So I would like to add a few columns into the table. For that, I'll use the Get development tool. So I will open the extension, and maybe I'll search for extension which is related to column. Maybe add column or something, you can search accordingly. So as you can see here, for list report page, there is a guide which will help me to add or edit a table column. So for now, let's say I will try to select the entity of the table. And if I select the entity type of the table, as you can see here, there is also a code snippet which is present, which you can also copy and use. For now, let me select travel ID, which is one of the. So basically, this drop-down lists on all the properties from the travel entity. So now after selection, I can also see now line item annotation is automatically created along with the property which I selected earlier. On clicking on insert snippet, I expect the code snippet to be inserted into the annotation file. Okay. Okay, as you can see here, the code snippet is inserted and the application is in live mode. So the application is auto refreshed, and let's see if something's the new column that I've added is present. Yeah, so this is what I did insert, and it is present. And as a next step, what I'll do is I'll also try to use the annotation modeler, which is also has some cool features. So you can directly add the annotations here. Yes, you can. Let me also try to. Okay. So it gives the code completion features. I can also very well add the other properties which I was expecting. Times. Okay. Maybe I'll also add one of the property from a different table. Just like, let's say I have a navigation property configured, and then I'll maybe like to show the city as well. So I have added few more columns into the line item. The list report also has filters, so maybe I'll see what I can do to add filters. I can remember I need to add some selection fields to bring up some filters in the list report. So let me search for it. Selection fields, it's available. Try to add the same properties here. You can also add the same city here, which is coming from the customer entity. Okay, so let me save it. So I did stop the application live loading so that I can also demonstrate how you can open it from the command prompt npm's. Okay, so now I run this application in mock server mode, which kind of takes the mock data to serve it. You can also see the other configurations in the package.json, where you can see what are the other scripts available which you can use it from your terminal. I'll quickly go to the application. Yeah, so now I did had few columns and then a few filters. Let's see if the data loads. Okay. So as a next step, maybe I'll try to add some fields to the object page as well. So as you can see, the list report records has the navigation option enabled for the object page. So I can see it already navigates to object page, but there are no fields present here since there are no annotations. So maybe I will use again, either I can use the annotation modeler or I can also search if some of the guides are present. Okay. Okay, I'll exist this guide. Maybe I'll try to add some header to the object page. Object page header. Let me search for the guide if it is available. Okay. Okay, so there is a guide called configure object page header. Okay, let me see if that is what I want to do. I can see the screenshot of the preview which is available, which means so that I can confirm, okay, this is the feature that I want to implement. I can read through it and then I can provide the required details. As you know, the object is travel, and maybe I'll say travel and travel list, and it also has a title parameter which discounts all the properties. For now, I select description for the object page title since I don't have any image in the entity, I just leave it as it is, and then let's say I insert snippet. Once this is inserted, maybe I'll also quickly add a section to the object page so that both sections and header are present. So section, there are plenty of guides related to section. For now, I'll say, let's say I want a field group as a section to a page. So it seems this guide has 2 steps. As a first step, maybe I'll have to create a field group annotation since I don't have any field group annotations here. So I'll quickly select the same entity type since, okay, I'll say booking details, and I'll say I want to know the customer details. Insert snippet. So now I created a field group annotation, and then I'll quickly move on to step 2. The code is inserted properly. Yes, I have a field group with a qualifier here. And I go to the next step. The parameters which I've entered earlier are pre-filled. So the entity's type is selected. Travel. Okay, travel. So the field group which I selected, created in the previous step is pre-filled here. And you can also see the actual annotation here. So I have a UI facet and reference facet annotation, and also the field group which I created. So I'll try to insert snippet. And once this is inserted, maybe I will use another option to launch the preview. Let me select, okay, the code snippet is inserted, and I'll say quickly preview application and start. And let the application load. Okay, so I did start from here from an NP application from adding few fields, and let's see if the object page comes up as we expect. So let me load some data in the list report where you can see the travel list, and let me navigate to any of the record available. Okay, so I did add few details. So this is object page header, and since there is no image, there is a backup image present, and this is a field group which is rendered as a section. Okay, maybe I'll also use this code editor again to add few more fields to the field group. So the annotation modeler already knows which place you are in, and then according to the annotation parent that you have, it will suggest what exactly to be added into the annotation term. Okay, path. We'll see booking fees. Okay, so with that, I'll also do one more thing. I think Ian also explained there is a page map where you can configure the page structure and add additional pages. So for that, I'll just say right click on it and then show page map. And let's see if the page map loads since it is zoomed a bit. Okay, so this shows that I have 2 pages, list report and object page. I can choose to edit or add multiple things, or I'll add another navigation or change page related properties. For now, I'll say I'll change one of the global settings here. So the application that we saw was in a navigation mode where you have a list report and then you navigate to the object page. So maybe I'll want it to be a flexible column layout where you have a master detail view. So I'll say begin expanded. I want list report to be filled 2/3 of it, and then the object page to fill 1/3 of it. And I'll hit apply. So basically the layout settings are now applied. And again, I can start from the local, or I'll simply say npm start. Okay. So the list report data loads, and as you can see here, the master detail floor plan or the flexible column layout settings is being applied. So I did start, to summarize, I did start creating the Fiori Elements application using the application generator extension, and I used guided development extension to add some of the features where the code snippets are already available. I just had to fill few parameters to insert it, and then for flexibility, I also used the code editor, means the annotation modeler, to add additional annotations, and also use the page map to change the page settings. As you can see here, we have started from here. Here, I think maybe the application got refreshed. Yeah, at the end of the day, you have a list report and object page application here. That's it about the demo. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun, for taking us through the demo. Now, we have about 10 minutes or so. I think Raz and Ian have done a brilliant job of answering all the questions that are already there in the chat. So I would like to check if there is anyone else who has any questions. Maybe now is the time to put it on the chat so that we can take it up. So there is a question around what configurations need to be done for the BAS connectors to the HANA database. Which one of the three speakers would like to address that? All of you are on mute, I think. Raz, Arun, and Ian. I would assume it will be Raz who will answer this, right? What are the configurations that need to be done to the BAS connectors to the HANA database?
Yeah, I just put the
Okay.
the answer, but it was a direct message, so I'm putting it
Okay.
again,
Cool.
so for everyone to see it.
Super. Thank you, Raz. Rajendra Singh is asking, can we use a BAP REST API instead of OData service in Fiori?
No is the answer. So there are tutorials and documentation on how you can expose your REST API so that it's OData aware and OData compatible. But the Fiori Elements projects reads that OData, and I guess as Arun demoed, it allows you to annotate any backend annotations that are in that metadata file. So the whole premise of Fiori Elements is that there's an OData data service that you inject to generate your application.
Okay, thank you. What is SAP Cloud Connector and what is its role if Fiori app in Fiori app development?
It's easier to answer it verbally. So the Cloud Connector allows for secure connectivity between SAP BTP and the on-premise system. Why is it needed for a Fiori development? If you're using SAP Business Application Studio, it runs on SAP BTP. So in order for it to securely connect to your on-premise system, assuming that you'd like to either consume data from the on-premise or you'd like to deploy the application to the on-premise system, you need to establish this secure connection. So that's basically why you need the cloud connector.
Thank you. There's a question on license model for using Fiori applications. I think the Fiori applications, deploying Fiori applications itself does not involve any licensing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Raz, Ian, or Arun, either of you can answer.
Developing a Fiori or Fiori Elements or SAP UI5 freestyle applications with the SAP Business Application Studio requires a license. In order when you deploy the application or you're using a different development environment, then other terms apply. So it really depends on the development environment that you use. But if you're using the Business Application Studio, the deployment is part of it. You don't need an additional license for the deployment. What you may need is you may need additional licenses for the runtime environment, which is outside the development flow.
So there's a question which is asking if someone already has BTP for CPI, they still need to buy licenses for BAS, right?
As far as I know, so far there are no bundles. But there are very limited bundles that include the Business Application Studio. In general, in the multi-cloud environment, each service is priced and licensed separately. This is slowly changing as new bundles are being introduced, so it needs to be followed. It may change over time, and the Business Application Studio may be included in various bundles.
There is a question around OData 4.0. Does it support Fiori elements? If so, could you please share any documentation for the same? Maybe you can share the link on the chat directly. Ian, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, it does. It does support OData v4, and I'll post some blog posts and some help documentation
on the chat. Yes, please. On SAP EHP 8, can we use BAS and Fiori? I think the answer is yes, but can one of you confirm?
So I think it depends on the Fiori, the SAP UI5 component version. So it's very clearly stated in our documentation. Let me try and search for it.
So while you search for it, I think there is a request for recording. I think you will get the recording tomorrow for today's session and yesterday's session as well. For yesterday's session, you already received the recording. Today's one you will get tomorrow. And tomorrow you'll also have the first session and the second session. So as we go along, I'll keep adding to the same every session's recording and the link to the slides. I'd like to request all the speakers to share their slides with me and Toros so that I can upload the slides and share that tomorrow when I send out an email. There was a question around user exits. Can we enhance standard Fiori apps same as we provide some interlocks using user exits to standard GUI transactions?
I can't see that one in the chat. Sorry, where is that?
It's on the chat. It's just about the question around OData.
We enhance standard Fiori apps, same as we provide some interlocks using user exits to standard SAP GUI transactions. I will have to check that out. I'm not an expert in SAP GUI transactions. I guess that's an older world technology.
Okay.
I don't know what that means, sorry.
So I think in the past, in all GUIs, there used to be user exits where actually customers could add additional functionality before proceeding further in the application. So I guess the question that they're asking is, can they do similar additional functionality that they were able to do using user exits in the past?
Right, Mukesh. It is the same.
I believe you can, based on what I heard today. You can take standard Fiori apps and enhance those apps by adding additional functionality. So I think the answer.
You can, and just also to mention that if you have an existing Fiori application, once you bring it into the Business Application Studio development space, we have tools to detect you have a Fiori app and detect that it doesn't currently support the Fiori tools, and it will ask you, do you want to migrate your project? And what will happen in that case is we will add some Node.js libraries and inject some code into your existing application to make it compatible with SAP Fiori tools, so you can enhance it.
Yeah, I think we have reached top of the hour. So I would like to thank all the three speakers, Ian, Raj, and Arun, for taking us through the session and answering all these questions. As I said, recording will be available tomorrow. Please do send the slides to me so that I can upload the slides and share them as well. And we have the next session coming up tomorrow. I hope to see all of you tomorrow. Atul, are you still on the call? Would you like to say anything before we conclude? No, I don't think Atul is on the call. So thank you, everyone, for your time. I hope that the session was useful, helpful. Maybe just for a minute or so, just to show our appreciation to the speakers, if you can just unmute yourself and give a round of applause to the speakers.
Thank you for the great session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. Thank you.
Thank
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Speakers.
Bye.
Thank you.